The podcast represent for the youths them. Have a right so we share for reviews them. Have a mind and a voice so we use them. Tell me why them a try confuse them. And we a spread unity, spread love in your community. And that's just who we be. Yet still we face scrutiny. Make a choice, use your voice, share your thoughts and human rights. Make a choice, use your voice, share your thoughts and human rights.
Welcome to another episode of Just Tea Podcast, brought to you by Jamaicans for Justice. I'm Xavier McFarlane, and with me are two brilliant young men on this panel, and they are.
I'm Cleveland Tomlinson.
Jajana Taylor.
And we will be discussing today on the matter of constitutional reform. So, I know you guys hear this word and you say, oh, that again. But I think we have some nuanced ideas on the matter. And also, it's just an opportunity for us to educate those who know, those who think they know, and those who don't know that they don't know. Yes. So, Mr. Tejano Taylor, tell us, what do you think constitutional reform is?
I think it's a very important part of any country, any state to take a look at their governing document and analyze it, assess it, and make changes to the betterment of their society. And in our case, I can go down a myriad of paths, but I think the major one so far is looking at us advancing our journey towards becoming a republic. And I think that is a very important step for us as Jamaicans.
Us advancing our journey to becoming a republic. Mr. Cleveland Tomlinson, what do you think about us moving to a republic right now?
Moving from a
constitutional
monarchy.
Yes.
But it's regrettable that more than 60 years post independence, we're still having a conversation about it. How we move to becoming a republic. That's something that we actually should have done it at the time when we achieved independence in 1962. But that's an opportunity that was squandered by the political leaders at the time, and we have squandered many opportunities over the last 60 years, 6 decades to get it done. But where we're at now, I think there's a political impasse. I think it goes without saying, I don't think in 2026, modern day Jamaica, that the head of state of a proud and independent country should be the monarch that resides in a country that once colonized us. That just does not sit well with me. In fact, I've read the prayer in Parliament once. Not really a fan of it. And there's somewhere in the prayer that speaks about the king. The protection of the king from whom the authority flows that constitutes the Parliament of Jamaica. Just these things are just regrettable. An independent country is referencing the head of state of our former colonizer in modern day Jamaica. I don't support that. So that's my perspective on us becoming a republic. We need to get it done.
Yes, as quickly as possible. Because this whole topic of us moving to true independence has been very much belabored. So, what sort of true independence do you want to see in Jamaica through constitutional reform, Tejano?
I think it's a wider conversation than necessarily it being a structured or physical thing, because I think one of the things we overlook is the importance of social changes, social improvements. Yes, I know the conversation around us removing the king as head of state is okay. Yes, it's not going to improve our economy. That may be true. We might not see things change overnight. Conversation around okay, what is that going to do for us? I don't think we've been having more so a cultural and a societal conversation about what that can look like. And it may not have its impact today, but it's something that our future generations will have. I always juxtapose the United States. And for whatever it did, pros and cons. If it's one thing I can say that they do very well, is they indoctrinate their society towards patriotism for their country. So it is not in any person, it is not in the president or the Congress or the courts. It's in and around what it means to be an American. And I think this being a first step for us helps us to put us in that kind of a situation where high school I can say, well, I think the future Jamaica can look like this. And I think I have that ability or the possibilities there for me to hold the highest the highest office in the land, not in a representative manner, but in an authoritative manner to say, I want to embody what it means to be a Jamaican. I want to be a force that steers the country to this to a place where everybody can be, can benefit, everybody can look to being Jamaican. So I think this is an important social and cultural step. Might not see the rewards today, but it is those small things we need to do so I can reap the rewards in the future.
And just to narrow it down, like you're talking about the people being involved.
Right.
There are a lot of people in Jamaica who think that constitutional reform is just for the government. It's the government's business. And the big wigs and the people who get up and talk in parliament are supposed to deal with that. Nobody else. Cleveland, how do you treat with disabusing that notion?
Yeah, there are practical ramifications of this process for people. It not being done. A clear one that I think is very connected to people would be where you access the top tier of your justice system. As it is now, our final appellate court resides in the United Kingdom. It's the Privy Council. The UK Privy Council is our final appellate court. That is a serious problem with respect to the average Jamaican being able to access the final tier of his justice system.
Yes.
I don't know why an independent country would seek to retain the UK Privy Council as its final appellate court. Let's think about just the procedures that would need to be followed before you can even gain access to the Privy Council. One, it's hugely costly. It's very costly. So usually the average person in Jamaica would not be able to afford a lawyer to litigate a case at the UK Privy Council.
Yes.
If you do manage to get your case taken up, it's usually pro bono by some UK law firm who, through some altruism, will decide to take up your case. So it requires the expenditure of huge sums of money. Then you need a visa potentially to go up there, and you can be denied a visa. So we should have long left the UK Privy Council as our final appellate court. Culpability for that should be laid squarely at the feet of the Jamaica Labour Party. And this is not a political conversation, but it's just factual. At the time between 2012 and 2015, in that administration, the government of the day had decided that they would pursue acceding to the appellate jurisdiction of the CCJ. The opposition at the time opposed it. There was one vote that was needed because there was 2/3 majority that was needed to pass it in the Senate, that's the upper house, because it was easily passed in the lower house because the government of the day had the majority. I had 2/3 of the majority, I think 42 MPs. But it was stopped by the opposition. One opposition vote was needed. Yeah, that's regretted that never happened. Where we are now, there should not be this hard choice between acceding to the appellate jurisdiction of the CCJ or retaining the Privy Council as our final appellate court. We already paid for the establishment of the CCJ. We already accede to the CCJ in its original jurisdiction, meaning its authority as the interpreter of the Treaty of Chagaramos that constitutes CARICOM.
Mhm.
We already paid for the CCJ, you know. We supported its creation. You know, we should follow suit with other Caribbean neighbors that, you know, I see to its appellate jurisdiction. The argument about the competence of the CCJ is not a reasonable argument. The CCJ is hugely competent, and its jurisdiction, its judgment, its judicial reviews are widely respected across the Commonwealth. So I don't entertain arguments about the reputation, the quality of judgment from the CCJ. I think the minister in his sectoral presentation, Delaware Chuck, last week posited that his position is that Jamaica should have its final appellate court here in Jamaica. That idea doesn't rub me as badly as the idea about retaining the UK Privy Council. But if you were to match up the two thoughts, the two propositions, CCJ or having a final appellate court here in Jamaica, you know, I think I'd lean more in the direction of the CCJ. We're barely supporting the court system in Jamaica right now. The restrooms are a disaster. The infrastructure in the court system is a complete disaster. If we go down to St. Elizabeth, the Santa Cruz courthouses, not just that in itself, but right across the island, they're utter disaster. You know, we still have a far way to go in having a robust justice system and efficiency in the operation of the courts. Justice Sykes has done a lot of work. I think we have a far way to go there with respect to us being very efficient. So I don't think the court administration division gets huge support from the Ministry of Justice, support that they should get. So if we're not supporting the Supreme Court to the extent that we should, I don't know why the Chuck wants to go now to establish the final appellate court and bring it here in Jamaica. I say that we should subscribe a seat to the appellate jurisdiction of the CCJ.
Yes, I definitely agree. Engage with me on that matter.
I think and I will say this particular stance. I think we don't have much conversation around a lot of issues in Jamaica from a non-politicized standpoint or from a polarized standpoint. I think in terms of constitutional reform, my concern was even when we had our first, I guess, the major constitutional reform exercise when we moved from being a crown colony to being a political independent nation. It was also alongside political lines too. I think more so non-polarized conversations is to be had in terms of okay, we're gonna advance and go down the road of republic. What exactly does the government look like? Do we want do we have more so more steps down the line in terms of improving our systems of governance? Does our parliamentary system still work for us in the way that we need it to be to? Do we need to take nuanced approach to that? And Cleveland raised an important matter. Why is appellate court? I've seen, and even the other day, there was a conversation on CVM about the entire thing. One lawyer was saying, okay, yes, CCJ, there are a lot of merits. CCJ has, for the longest while, been, I say, in good light in terms of its rulings and so forth. Another school of thought is along the lines of keeping the Privy Council. Another school of thought is along the lines of, okay, we're going to carry the Supreme Court here. So I think, so to your question in terms of access, I think sometimes a conversation gets a little polar to say, okay, we have to choose this or we have to choose that. But then I'm not so sure if everybody's having a conversation. Okay, these are the pros and cons of this. This is another option. This is another option too. And you talk about access to the Constitution. How many average Jamaicans genuinely sit down and say, okay, I'm going to read sections and sections. As learned as I am, I can say I don't think I've gone through the entire Constitution myself either. So I think it's important for us to have analytical conversations around what this looks like. Because it's not just a simple thing, you get me? In terms of, oh, it's a simple decision. It's a decision that is going to impact generations of Jamaicans. So I think in terms of access, there's a lot more we can do. I remember that the then minister wanted to roll out a online platform to access laws, and it's an easy search. I don't know how far along that has been. I remember it was launched, but there has been some form of challenges around that. So I think from a governance standpoint, we definitely need to do more in terms of educating, in terms of providing the avenues, easy avenues in the age of artificial intelligence. Regular Jamaicans should be able to say, all right, what's up with this? How am I supposed to treat with this? How far along are we with this? What they don't have any legal background. How can I understand this particular piece of legislation? So those are additional conversations that I think we should be having in and around this entire thing for constitutional reform.
Thank you so much, Joanna. What do you think about that?
Well, we can start with just access to the reform process. Well, we just had last year a constitutional reform process. We established a constitutional reform committee, and we included persons from different facets of society, civil society, the youth. I don't know how close average Jamaicans were to that process. There were efforts to have town hall meetings and community engagements. We did not see that happen to the scale that I thought was appropriate for bringing people into the conversation so that they can feel a part and feel that their perspectives are informing the constitution that will govern them. This is not the government's constitution, this is the people's constitution. So if you're talking about access from the position of the access that people had to discussions regarding what should be in the constitution, I don't think we saw that to the scale that I think was appropriate. Beyond that, the conversation about how accessible the constitution itself is, which I think you're heading down. Right, I don't know if many Jamaicans are even aware of their fundamental rights, which creates a lot of work for JFJ to do in informing people of their rights and showing them how to defend those rights and creating a space and a platform so that if those rights are breached, that there is recourse through the courts or through other avenues for them.
Yes. So constitutional reform is not a thing that should be thought of in isolation or contemplated one away to say, yeah man, it's just the government's business. It's for the government and it's for you, the people. And with that thought, we'll take a break. This is the Just Tea podcast, and on matters that we discuss, we want to hear from you. So, go on our page at JA4Justice, find the episode or all the episodes for that matter that you like, and comment. Give us recommendations and let us know what you think about the matter being discussed. See you soon. Welcome back to Just Tea podcast. I'm Xavier McFarlane, and with me we have two brilliant people, but we have a new bright spark added to the panel. Introduce yourself.
I'm Nicola Douglas.
Hi, Nicola,
Hi.
and welcome.
Thank you.
So, and then we still have Tejana Taylor with us. So, we're engaging on the matter of constitutional reform. But we're going to zoom into a part of the Constitution that a lot of people talk about, really, and that's your rights. In our Constitution, we have the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms. But the big question is there somebody or is there a body that can sufficiently monitor those rights to effectively allow for there to be representation of people who those rights have been infringed in some way or the other? Now, the question comes up, don't we have the Office of the Public Defender? What kind of organization are you asking for? There's a conversation around the whole idea of us having a national human rights institution, a commission really to monitor whether issues that arise when public bodies or statutory bodies infringe the rights of people in this country. So to engage on this matter, I'm going to look on Nikela. What do you think?
Okay, so a lot of questions. All right. So, yes, you mentioned that don't we have the Office of the Public Defender? We do. And we're not going to negate the fact that the Office of the Public Defender is not assisting in monitoring and investigating rights that are breached and ensuring that they are protected. And our citizens of Jamaica are protected and their rights are protected. However,
Mm-hmm.
that body, it has a specific mandate to which it investigates, and so it basically is investigating breaches and rights that are basically related to government authorities and public bodies. All right, so its powers are important, but it shows that it's basically limited. The mandate is limited. No, it would definitely assist in the investigation and monitoring of rights that are basically in the Constitution. But what about our second generation rights? Like you have our economic rights.
Yes.
I mean, come on. You have our cultural rights and so forth. Does this body has the capacity or the authority to go beyond that of the Constitution? And this is where the question comes in. Do we need another body that can actually assist and not just assist but focus? Its focus is specifically towards investigating human rights, monitoring human rights, drafting legislation. Yeah, scrap. Drafting recommendation, and drafting other things that can also assist in the protection or advancement and development of our human rights. So hence the reason for us saying there should be a national human rights body.
Oof. I have to sip some tea because Tejano, I have to move to you. Now, she said that we need that body despite the office of the public defender being in existence. We need this new NHRI to do all of the things that she was recommending. Do you think that it will render the ODP obsolete?
I mean, I wouldn't take such a such a perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I think generally one of the challenges we do have is so we as a country we agree to international standards, but sometimes its implementation here in Jamaica is a challenge. Whether it be a legislative bottleneck, whether it be probably a political priority, whether it be we probably have a hurricane and okay that get pushed back to the back of the line with other stuff. I think one of the challenges is the implementation. So I don't necessarily think, and I don't think it would become okay, we're gonna keep the rest and then create this thing. I think more than likely what's going to happen is everything would be absorbed into one entity for efficiency reasons, of course. I think this particular direction is important, and it's important to just lives of average Jamaicans in the sense where we can meet our international obligations by getting that support. Because the truth is, government alone can't do everything. And and the inability to do everything, we rely on civil society, we rely on constitutional organization institutions to help guide government policy direction and decision. Because it will always have the politics of the day, that is true. But it's important that we have these independent, mandate-focused institutions to help guide policy direction, guide recommendations, and assist in the implementation of these agreements, and so that we can say to the world internationally, we are advancing based on the things that we commit. So I think it's very important.
Yes, I do agree with Tijano. In fact, the Jamaica's government has previously suggested expanding the role of the public defender to create Jamaica's NHRI, and we have two possible suggestions. Of those two, one is that the public defender remains exactly as it is, and a completely new NHRI is created. And the other is that the public defender office is expanded and transformed into an NHRI.
I like the second part more. Because I just have a thought that if we have ODP remaining as it is, and then we have this cup that can hold water, but then there's a limitation to the amount of water that it can hold. But then we have a bigger cup that is designed to hold more water and also keep that water insulated, right? So you can keep it hot for long periods or keep it cold for long periods, depending on the type of water that you put in it. This cup is not going to have much utility thereafter because the better cup, which is the NHRI, will have more capacity to do more things at a more efficient level. So I'd say both could be subsumed, or at least transform ODP, the small cup, into that bigger cup, the NHRI, so that the volume of things that it can do will now, the limitation that's on it now will definitely cease to exist, and it would be expanded to allow for more things to happen. So the second suggestion,
So
may I buy that?
our concern is less about name and about how much power it has to assist. So as long as it has the ability to push a more unlimited mandate in protection of the rights of persons, then go out by all means.
Because you understand this point, Tejano. You talk about constitutional reform. You reform the constitution, and then you look on the rights of the people, and you see the charter. But then there are some rights that aren't really in the charter. But people are affected because those things are being infringed anyway. So let us make reform to create a sort of balancing act where everything is contemplated.
Yes, everything is considered, taken into consideration. We don't want such a rigid system that creates oppression instead of protection. Yes.
I'd say I agree with you in that. It's always important, especially for us as a small island developing state, we're able to be as efficient and efficient and impactful as we can. And I think not necessarily subduing, but expanding, improving, making the Office of the Public Defender incorporate so much more, and turning that into that organization. I also think that an important, and I'm highlighting this too because I know we're having a conversation about it, in that whilst we're looking at rights, we also need to look at our capacity to ensure that those rights are not being infringed on. Not just to say, okay, your rights are being infringed on, but how can we prevent that from happening? And I think for the wholesome standpoint, the NHRI would allow, or will become an organization that will assist in improving and making recommendations as to what we can do to improve not just the rights as are in the Charter of Rights, but the other things, as we say, Jamaicans are being impacted about. And I think that wholesome symbiotic approach is best for everybody.
Exactly. Yeah. So having several institutions is not the same as having one institution whose primary mandate is to protection and promotion of human rights. So for JFJ,
Yes, let's go to JFJ, right?
there is currently nobody in Jamaica that fully performs that role according to international standards. And so as a result of that, I think we should take great consideration to this recommendation of the NHRI being put in place.
Right. So the first recommendation is the NHRI should adopt a commission-based structure and have some quasi-judicial functions. So Tejano, what's the next one?
So the next one is NHRI should be empowered to promote and protect the widest gambit of human rights and should be not limited to the rights enshrined in the Constitution, which is also important.
Yes, very much important. And then it moves on to say, so we're going to give you all of them on the screen. So we just attend to the ones where we feel like you are here right now, you know? So there's also the recommendation that the NHRI should have a responsibility to report and advise and make recommendations to Parliament and government. That's important. Because if you're monitoring, you must be able to put something to the legislative body of the land. Yes.
So the next one is it should be mandated to engage with civil society. An important part in just general accountability and just really for the citizenry to be able to understand their rights so they themselves can protect their rights, because you can't protect something you don't know, but also to seek help and assistance where you may think that your rights may be in breach and how you can mitigate that.
And this one speaks now to the mandate. The NHRI should be mandated to continuously monitor the human rights situation in Jamaica and in particular places of detention. Interesting. Places of detention like our prisons and them something there. Because remember, even though somebody in a prison, their rights aren't them rights not deleted.
Yes.
They still have rights and they should be treated not in an inhuman and degrading way. They have that right, yes?
Treated the same like any other human.
Any other human being.
But ultimately, the NHRI should encourage and make recommendations for the ratification and harmonization of international human rights instruments. So that also is important. We do, as a signatory to the United Nations, have a responsibility to ensure that when we go to the UN conferences and those different forums and we agree to certain international customs and best practices, it's important that we're able to come back to Jamaica and make those implementation. And it's for the betterment of all Jamaicans.
Yes. And finally, on this side is the NHRI should be permitted to intervene in court proceedings that involve human rights issues. Now, if you're a monitor of human rights matters, I'm sure that, but then this intervention, mark you, shouldn't interfere. It's intervention, but not interference. So it should not interfere with the independence of the judiciary. So this is not what it's saying at all. It's just that once there is a monitoring of the human rights matter, they must be able to then follow through with that particular matter through the courts until it is closed.
Yeah.
Over to you now.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. It's basically an NHRI could investigate complaints, advocate for affected persons, monitor detention facilities, make recommendations to government, and help ensure that human rights issues don't appear simply because an individual lacks the resources to fight. So,
yes. Wow.
The rights are very important.
Yes.
The rights are very important. So, hey guys, look, your constitution is the supreme law of the land. Yes? But guess what? You are the supreme beings of your country. Not saying that you're God, but you are actually the most important people here, the citizens. And that constitution helps to protect you. And one thing that you have is your right, or the things that you have are your rights. And there should be someone or somebody there to monitor those rights so that when or if it is infringed, there are some sort of avenues for you to get redress.
Right.
So, this is a matter on constitutional reform and NHRIs. I'm Xavier McFarlane, and
I'm Nicola Douglas.
And I'm Tijano Taylor.
and this is the Just Tea Podcast. See you soon.
Bye.